Today is May 2nd, and I got the port side strake on the shear there, the shear strake, not the raised shear, but the shear strake. You can see what I had to do there. I mean, it's hard to get clamps in some of these places, and so in that case there, I actually wrapped a tie-down strap, a 1.5 inch tie-down strap around that to get that pulled into position. To make sure that they were on the same plane, I ran a level line out from the other side, out and then over. So I had the two shear strakes on the same plane, you know, so they weren't shifted one higher or lower. It'd look a little funny if the boat was coming towards you and they were on a different plane. So I made sure those were on the same plane. And yeah, some crappy wood. I don't know if you can see that there. That 2x4 had a big knot in there, and it's got a split in the lower half of it. You know, what do you do? This one, I did not put butt blocks in. I landed these on the frames. And I kind of wish on the other side that I hadn't put the butt block in, the one that was on the other side from this one, simply because I may want, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do there for sure yet on the inside, but that's going to be over by the galley, and I may want to have that open for some small shelves or something. I don't know. So I've been thinking about redoing that one over there, putting the screws through from the inside the butt block to hold it together, and then taking the ones on the outside out. And then when I put the plywood on, I could put some screws through the plywood to, we'll see. I don't know. But anyway, I got this one done today, and it was a big job again. I had a deal back here. Let me get my way worked back here. I had a deal back here. This second from the transom and the next frame back, which is frame 46, is giving me problems on both sides. And here, it's out a little too far. It protrudes out, 46 does on both sides. And I was going to have a problem on these two frames here, 44 and 42, that it was going to leave a little bit of a cup, a little indent, little concavity in those two frames if I left 46 the way it was. So I had the board up there and I looked at it, and there's a little bit of a dip in there, and I thought, well, I could bring these two out a little bit, you know, shim them up just a little bit. But then, of course, you got to shim across the whole thing so the boards aren't on different levels. So I decided not to do that, and I went ahead and pulled the board off far enough so I could get in there, and I shaved down that frame 46 to make it a little bit thinner, you know, just a 1/2 inch or whatever it was. And it looks pretty good now. It flows, you know, fairly nicely along there. Not quite perfect yet, but not bad. But the problem is I didn't do that over here on this side, and so it's kind of bulbous, and you can probably see that there. It's a little bulbous on that frame where it really kind of bows out, and then that creates a pretty sharp bend going back to the transom. And of course, I just assumed that's the way the plans were drawn when I was working on this side, so I really didn't do anything about it. But it's given me some problems, some splits there on the 46 frame, and so I actually sawed that beam, or that strake up there, the shear strake. I sawed it in half for a few feet, and to take some of the stress out of that joint. So I'm going to have, I don't know, I'm going to have two different sides. The stern here are going to, by the transom, are going to look a little different. This side's going to be a little more curvy, and this side over here is going to be a little flatter, which I think is better. I mean, there's no particular reason you really need to have that, you know, outward bow over there. To me, that almost seems like it has to be a mistake in the drawings that George did, because I really can't imagine that he wanted it, you know, quite that bad. But I don't know. But I don't think I'm gonna take it apart and redo it. I just don't see the wisdom in that. If you look at the plans, if you look, you know, down on the on the transom here. I don't know. Yeah, it probably does curve in just a little bit more than anywhere else. Well, obviously it's going to because it's at the transom, but yeah. I don't know if we got any better looks at it or not. But it just looks to me like he had those frames positioned a little too far out. So if you're going to build one of these, I would suggest trimming those down a little bit and doing them both the same. But, you know, now that I've got planking up, you know, a third of the way here or whatever, it's kind of hard to do any major changes. I mean, I suppose I could redo some of those, but I mean, it's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to affect the way the boat moves in the water or how it rides in the water. You know, most of it's above the water line anyway, so yeah, I think it'll be all right. But now that I got these done, I can start. Yeah, that's not perfect either. I don't know. Again, if you come right along inside the boat and side along it, you're going to see some imperfections. Actually, the lower stuff that I did here looks really good. That shear strake, the one that I just put in, is a little imperfect. But it is what it is. I'm just going to have to live with it, I think, because I don't know, I can't just keep getting overly fussy on this stuff. And I think once the plywood goes on there too, it's going to, you know, you're going to have to plane it down a little bit before the plywood goes on, so any small imperfections are going to be taken out with that. And then just the plywood's going to have somewhat of a leveling effect too on some of these. And I am going to glue this plywood on. That was one thing I did decide I wanted to do was glue the plywood on, not just, you know, I just slather some sealant on it and put it up there. But yeah, that was a lot of work again, putting this shear strake up here and getting it into position. It's been a real struggle to get that in there. I don't know why it's so difficult, but well, you got to try to, you know, you got to try to get that shear strike right on the point of where where the point of where those frames meet, because the next one on top then has to sit on the straight portion of the frames up there. And so, and nothing ever comes out just exactly perfectly. So on an awful lot of these frames, I had to trim them using a, you know, well, number of different things, but primarily that whatever that thing is on my angle grinder, that coarse rasp, I guess, I don't know. Still don't know what you call it. You have to look it up and see where I bought that and what it's called. But anyway, yeah, so I had to work a lot of those frames to get the thing in there, and even then I can still see, like I said, some imperfections in it. The butt blocks do result in a little bit smoother flowing, of course, because you got a little length on those butt blocks, and so it makes that kind of hides that joint a little bit better. And then the quality of the wood here doesn't help any either. It's, you know, here's another spot where there's a big old knot in there. There's going to be a stress point until the plywood gets on there. And there's another one there. Until the plywood gets on there, and the plywood will, you know, stabilize everything. You glue that plywood on and it's going to stabilize everything. But yeah, it sure would be nice if a guy had some really good quality wood to work with, but I don't know if that's realistic without making it adding $100,000 to the price of the boat now. But now that this is on, I can continue planking up the rest of the way, and it's actually going to be kind of refreshing just to get back to regular planking again. instead of that shear strake, because those were, like I said, those were really a struggle. They were a lot of work. This first one here really kicked my butt. The second one maybe wasn't quite so bad, but it was still a lot of work. This butt block here isn't going to matter because it's, you know, in the engine room there. But this butt block here is going to be right in the middle of the galley. And of course, I can't, once I get the plywood on, I won't be able to do anything about it. So I'm thinking I might run some screws through the backside instead of the outside, run from the inside out, so that if I want to take that butt block off, I can once the plywood is on there. Just rely on the plywood for to hold it together, which it will, no problem. But I don't know. We'll see. All right, well, I just thought I'd do a little bit of updates since I got those shear strakes done. Next thing we can expect to see is some more planking up here.